A very good evening to all of you and welcome to the 18th webinar in ICFAI's Wise Views Interactive Webinar Series. This Friday, we have yet another exciting guest, Mr. David Lobo. Mr. David Lobo is going to talk about agriculture and the immense possibilities that lie to unravel in the field of agriculture for us. Every week, we are hosting discussions on corporate world. We are hosting discussions on technology. We are hosting discussions on what is commonly understood as entrepreneurship. But agriculture and the entrepreneurship involved in agriculture is a very interesting subject, and it is garnering a lot of interest. How, where, and what is going to be explained by our esteemed guest today, Mr. David Lobo. I want to welcome Mr. David Lobo, his friends, learned friends from around the country who have joined. Mr. Benedict, who has helped us connect to Mr. David, is also most welcome. Thank you, Mr. Benedict, for providing this connect. And with your permission, we will start the discussion here. I welcome Mr. R. Prasad, who is my esteemed colleague and is also Director of Academic Wing at the ICFAI Group. He's also going to be moderating the session. I will initiate the introduction right now, and then we'll hand it over to Mr. David Lobo. Welcome to Wise Views Interactive Webinar Series. This is the 18th, as I mentioned. We're extremely happy to have Mr. David Lobo. He's going to talk about the paradigm shift in Indian agriculture. He's an agribusiness leader. We are keen to listen to his perspectives. So 30 minutes of talk will be delivered by Mr. David Lobo. That is the agenda, and followed by another 30 or 40 minutes of questions and answers. And these questions are collected from all the members who have registered. So at the time of registration, they would key in their questions, and that is collected. And the second pool of questions are collected while the conversation is going on live. They key in those questions in the chat box, and which will pick up, and we will pose those questions to the guest. So that will go on for about 30 to 40 minutes, roughly about 1 hour of session. I take pleasure in presenting Mr. David Lobo, Chairman of Deejay Group. Mr. David Lobo started his business long back in 1969. Deejay Group is now one of the largest poultry farms and breeding organizations, and of course, later on, the best hybrid coconut palm breeding business in the country. They commenced research in 1983 in coconut breeding, and today Deejay, the largest hybrid coconut breeding entity in India, has developed the highest producing hybrid coconut tree in the country, if not in the world. Deejay Coconut Farm has become the most recognized coconut breeding project, acclaimed for its ideal coconut hybrid palm, the Deejay Sampurna hybrid coconut seedling. The company does its breeding in roughly about 600 acres of farms spread across the country, and has supplied more than 3 million hybrid seedlings to farmers till now. Mr. David Lobo started two organizations, the Bridge Foundation and the Deejay Coconut Farm. Bridge Foundation has become a leader in the NGO space and won many awards for the best run NGO among several countries. In 2018, we need to note that on Independence Day, Mr. David launched the Deejay Agri Support Foundation by giving 60 poor farm women 10 seedlings each to help them gain financial security. He also distributed 3,150 hybrid coconut seedlings to 315 women in total during the rest of the year, and would be targeting 2,000 more and many more beneficiaries in the years to come. Deejay Hybrid gives the farmer a consistent income of more than 2 lakhs per acre per annum and helps them in their upliftment in their economic. Mr. David received several awards: Shiromani Award for Outstanding Achievement in the field of poultry and livestock farming, Karnataka Agrotech Award of Excellence for his contribution in the field of applied science and technology in agriculture and allied field, and SME's Innovation Excellence Awards in 2017. I think this is good enough for the introduction of a very large profile of Mr. David. I will stop it here, and I will request all of you to mute your microphones so that without any disturbance, we are going to listen to Mr. David and understand the intricacies, the moving ground as far as Indian agriculture is concerned. Now, I request Mr. David to take it over and begin his talk. Most welcome, sir. We are all waiting to hear from you. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Sudhakar Rao, for that introduction. Some of the things I've forgotten, but anyway, thank you for saying that, those very kind words. There's a lot of people I have to thank, all those who have the patience to listen. but I would like to get started because there's a lot I want to say. Before I start my little PPT, I'd like to just urge everyone listening to some of the things that have motivated me so that you too, if it helps, might become better partners with us, which is the theme of this discussion, to partner with us in this paradigm shift in agriculture through the coconut tree or through coconut farming. My father played a big role. He gave me the attitude of finding the best way to do a job. My mother showed me that the principal thing in life was sincerity of purpose. I was 6 years in the seminary. There I learned something very, very important. A lot of other things I also learned, but I'm just talking about 3. This third one, which I learned, was the purpose of life. And I share this with you because I am very keen on the subject I'm going to talk about. I'm very keen on the goals we wish to reach. And I look forward to as many partners as possible coming in. So friends, let me start this. If you give me a couple of seconds to share the screen. I am starting from the end. Now let me start from the beginning. I'm sorry about that.
No problem. No problem.
I'm sorry for that little delay. I'm learning as we go along, as you notice.
Yeah.
I mentioned to you a little bit of the background. I'm really keen, and my entire team and all of us in Deejay are just as keen in our vision and in our mission. Once we've seen what this plant, this palm can do, we've set ourselves a vision and a mission, a vision to move at least 1 million small farmers. And the mission to do it through producing a very good quality hybrid coconut seedling. This started 40 years ago when I met a UN expert, Professor Anthony Davis, who had discovered a palm in a village in South India, Kulashekaram, and he called it the Kulashekaram dwarf, and he had done research, and he asked us, we can create a paradigm shift in agriculture if you would take this and do with it what is possible, and that's how we started. I'm sorry, there's a...
We need to share the PPT. Yeah.
It's not coming on, it's showing now, on my screen. No, I'm so sorry.
Now you are trying to share, sir. It is,
yes,
it is
I'm trying to
appear. Again. It's going to appear right now. Yeah.
So as I was mentioning, I'll move on from our vision and mission, and we are all committed to this. And we are very obsessed actually with the coconut palm because we've seen so many wonderful things. From the point of view of food, a Danish gentleman sent us a report on the amount of, if we calculate food in the terms of calories, the Deejay Sampurna gives the highest amount of food in the world per acre, many times that of rice. And profitability, it's among the best. I'll show you slides a little later. There's a dramatic range of value-added products this tree can render and give, and not just from the nut and the coconut, but from all parts of the tree. Some of those products are extremely good for health. VCO, virgin coconut oil in particular, and some of you might have heard of these benefits. And there's more and more science and more research showing that this is a very good product. Video recently came out, a CNN Live, on helping patients who've had COVID. They recover much faster, much better, and so on. A lot of small farmer benefits and big farmer benefits also. But the small farmer benefits is what we need, because 86% of our farmers are really marginal farmers. Intercultivation can be done with the coconut tree. Almost every crop can be cultivated. So a small farmer need not change he needs to bring in coconuts as well with his cultivation. And we'll go into more details later on. And there are many more benefits. Here are a few pictures of the new hybrid, the Sampurna hybrid, and its yield. It yields very early, large numbers, and farmers are really getting a great benefit. These pictures are not the average pictures in a garden. I want to be very honest. These are the best trees in a person's farm. And there are many farmers, we've taken these from our farmer gardens. All of these are Sampurnas. And now, while these are the best, they yield 500 and 600 nuts per tree per year. I'll show you the comparison a little later. What is the average is happening now? But the average in the garden from our trees is 250 nuts, much 4 to 5 times higher than the average. And you can see that here. You can ask for a copy and you can get this copy later. So I won't go into details. The last line is what I'd like you to look at: profitability per acre per year. You're getting 4, 5, 6 times more profitability than the regular coconut tree and also than most other forms of agriculture. Not only profitability, but the versatility of this tree and its products is dramatic. This is just a slide on the coconut and the nutraceutical cosmetic industry, but there are health benefits and there are so many other areas of use as food, as I said, and for confectionaries, for ice creams, desserts, and all a range. And the tree itself can give you so many products. Just last week, I read of a new product in Kerala. Spent tender coconut, crushed and used and processed, is making a vegan leather. So they're making leather now from the coconut tree, which is something I was really surprised to read about. Before I go to the next slide, I'd just like to come back and say that this industry is expected to grow, the value-added industry, from 35 billion to $95 billion in the next 3 years. So there is huge potential, is what I'm trying to show you. And if we just compare it with some of the major agricultural industries in the country, sugarcane, the coconut tree produces 15,000 kilos of sugar per acre compared to 3,000 kilos. One wonders, where does the sugar come from? Well, we just set up a farm in Goa for this. It's from the nira, the juice which is taken from the flower stem. And it takes 200 liters of water to produce 1 kilo of coconut sugar compared to 3,000 liters. And water is going to be a problem in the future. If we compare, there's all these little things about coconut sugar and the yields and the benefits. If we compare it with government of India is focusing on palm oil because edible oil is the second largest import after crude in the country. How can we reduce our dependency? And so the import of palm oil is the solution at the moment. So our tree produces, this Sampurna hybrid produces 2.5 tons of oil per acre compared to 1 ton of palm oil in India. Palm oil's yields are higher, but I'm taking the Indian yields. It's environmentally friendly, and there are so many products, whereas from the palm oil tree, you get only one product really. The dairy industry, India is the largest producer of milk in the world, but the dairy industry is also the second largest global warming gas producer. After crude, it is the second largest. And every product from the dairy industry, very welcoming to the vegan, can come from the coconut palm. And not only that, the coconut palm sequesters 24 tons of carbon dioxide per acre per year. And that's continuous once you plant the palm. I don't know what I should do. Just a minute, let me. It's not changing. Will you just help me, please?
Just press the enter button.
Yeah.
Yes,
Then just do this.
I did that. Income. Okay, thank you. That's my daughter. We, old generation, need the help of the younger generation, and I need all of you. Okay. DJ's commitment to the future. We have a continuous improvement program. Every year we take 2-3% of our poorest performers based on their last 6 years average production and replace them with pedigreed, best of the best new stock. For this, we have the coconut database management system called CDMS. This is a system we developed, and we don't know if anybody else in the world has 30,000 palms recorded, computerized information on every palm from the day it was planted and the flowering and so on. All these are very important for us, as I will share a little later. We are also the only people, not the only people, very few people who can guarantee they are getting a hybrid. Most people looking at 2 coconut palms, little seedlings, you can't tell the difference. Whether it's a dwarf or a tall or a hybrid, nobody can tell the difference. And most people, as we experienced ourselves when we first started planting coconut palms, do not get hybrids, whereas we're able to guarantee the hybrid because Professor Anthony Davis told us what to do. Use a yellow mother, which he had worked with a green father, green being dominant, we get a green sprout, and that confirms it's a hybrid. So for all this, we have a pedigree breeding program. I am sharing all this because we are happy to work with anybody else tomorrow who may be interested in any of these areas. The pedigree breeding program, we know the father and the mother of every mother palm we produce. We collect the information from the CDMS and then measure the trees, various factors of the tree, and then make our selection. We are now doing genome sequencing, hoping that we could make faster progress with the knowledge we get from this. We get this through a joint venture with the Karnataka Agri University here, and we have other joint ventures as well, and we are ready to tie up with and tie up to others who can help us. And if we can help them, we are happy to do the same. We are actually changing the architecture of the Sampurna. The normal coconut trees have 12 or 13 leaves a year. Our hybrid has 18 to 20 leaves a year. We have done this through selective breeding. The normal coconut tree's leaflet will be 4 centimeters. The hybrid, which we produce, is 6 centimeters. So it's producing about 3 times more. It can handle light and photosynthesis 3 times more than the normal tree. We are working on an optimized coconut productivity system to help farmers to save water, to increase density, saving 50% of the water and the fertilizers. Most people don't know that water and fertilizers, most is wasted. The crops that are given water and fertilizers take only about 20%. The rest is there in the soil and leaches away. And we're working on a system that will save at least 50%. And the research shows us very good results. So we will be sharing all this with farmers as well. We have a 10-year horizon. We have, in 10 years, we hope to have a 30% higher yield in our hybrids. In 20 years, we hope to have a 60% higher yield. And in 30 years, that's in the future. I'll tell you in the future. I'm sorry, I think this carpenter must blame his tools now and get a new computer. We can do a lot of intercultivation with the coconut tree. This picture is one of turmeric, which is being in a farmer's garden. And the income of the farmer can be increased. So even a small farmer who needs to grow his own crops can also plant coconut palms. We have a trust, as you had mentioned earlier, Mrs. Sudhakar Rao, that helps people who cannot afford to buy this hybrid. And we have a phrase, 10 coconut palms for financial security. He earns 3,000 to 4,000 rupees a month once they come into yield. 50 coconut palms for financial comfort, and 100 coconut palms for financial freedom. We did a study of about 6,000 of our small farmers, and more than 5,000, had moved out of poverty, have their own homes, their own vehicles, their children in school, which for us is out of poverty. And so this palm is ideal. All palms, you can grow other things under them, not just the Sampurna, all palms. So that is many of the good reasons, but here's just a chart with a comparison of different farms and different agricultural operations. I would just ask you to look at the lowest line. You can look at the details later on, and you can see clearly if you plant coconut, the Sampurna exclusively, you're getting a far higher income. But we are suggesting a lot of things along with the coconut palm. I told you I'd show you a mother palm. Well, this mother palm is, last week I was in one of our farms in Penukonda, and this palm number 761, the father is 285 and the mother is, I can't see my screen properly, so I've forgotten the number, 17 something. And the father and the mother come from another farm of ours, but we've selected them on the basis of their excellence and then bred them accordingly. This will just give you an idea of what the future is, and I hope all the trees, not just 5% of the trees, will be like this, giving you 500 or 600 years, 30 years from now. Let me move on to where does the paradigm shift come in agriculture. Basically, it is using the coconut palm as a stabilizing influence for every form of agriculture in the tropics, of course, where there is water, and letting farmers increase their yields by using both their regular crops and planting on the border or planting even within the field at distances. There are several ways it can be done. So the benefits from the country going into a much higher level of coconut farming along with interculture will of course create a greater quantum of food, many more jobs, a lot more exports. I mentioned about the value addition of products. India is very far behind the rest of the world, and I'll come to the reason for that. So there are so many advantages for the nation, for job creation, for industry, for value addition, for the small farmer. That's why we recommend merging these forms of farming. We need the government to be aware of this. We need really awareness, and we want everyone to learn more about it, question us, find out, is what we are saying true? We would like to hear about the weaknesses and improve whatever we are doing. So awareness creation in government. Right now, we feel government should create a culture for productivity, not a subsidy culture whereby they get votes. They must work towards a productivity culture. The government sector in the agri-colleges, the universities, all of them should understand this concept and support the concept in whatever way. Now, some of you might be thinking, we want to sell our seedlings. Of course, we want to sell our seedlings, but this is not the forum, nor is this the intention, because we're already fully sold out. We want our country to come up. We have a waiting list and farmers have to wait. That's why small farmers, we have a special program. Anybody ordering 50 seedlings or less do not have to wait. And the others have to wait sometimes more than a year. But so the purpose is not marketing. Please bear with me. How can we make a paradigm shift in agriculture? We need the awareness of the government. And one important place in government is, please bring coconuts under the Plantation Act. This is why it's not growing. And this is why India has the poorest value addition industry. Thailand, our neighbor, Sri Lanka, they have far bigger processing industries than India. Sri Lanka processes one factory, 1 million coconuts per day. India's largest factory, which is struggling, cannot get 65,000 coconuts to process per day. So I'm just giving you an example. If the Plantation Act included the coconut palm, then the industrialist and the big investor could also come in, and linked with him, the small farmer will then get a great fillip. Deejay's commitment, our commitment is to work with everyone who wants to achieve this goal. We are ready to partner in any way with everyone, with anyone who comes forward in this area. And we would like suggestions and we want support too. Contract farming is something new we are starting. We're bringing that in so that those who cannot attend and look after their farms, but would like to have a farm, we are getting into that. So what is the time for this now? Can we get it started right now? So friends, I invite you to the future. Thank you very much for listening, putting up with the little drawbacks that I've faced here, and thank you for your future support.
Thank you, sir. That's a great presentation. You are all set to revolutionize coconut farming in India. And for lack of vision or strategy, we are lagging behind other few countries that you mentioned, like Thailand, Sri Lanka, and few others. I'm sure with these steps and recommendations, with government also supporting us and private players chipping in, I'm sure we are all set to take the benefit of coconut farming going forward and making agriculture profitable. Thank you very much for this talk. And now we will begin the question and answer session. And I would like to invite Professor R. Prasad. As I said, he's the Director for Academic Wing at ICFAI Group. Professor R. Prasad brings to the table an experience of 3 decades, including entrepreneurship, work in corporate world, and also exposure into academic world, all put together 3 decades of rich experience. And he's the architect of the latest MBA program, which we have launched. It is called Online MBA Program. And I request Professor Prasad to start the moderation. Over to you, Professor Prasad. Thank you.
It was excellent listening to your presentation. Very inspiring, sir. Not just your content, but also the way you have presented it. I think there's a lot to learn from, including in presentation. And you have chosen in your lifetime a subject and a mission which indeed is even more inspiring. So I think it's a double whammy for all of us in terms of what we can take away, though we may be in very different fields. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
So the first question is about your journey. You had a very long journey from when you started off in 1969, almost like the age of many of us. And I'm sure that there's a lot of richness and insights that you'd like to share with us in terms of your experience and the lessons that you'd like to give to us as we go ahead, and particularly to entrepreneurs who want to get into agribusiness. Would you like to share some, sir?
Well, I'd like first to make a little correction in the introduction. We no longer are in poultry. We're completely out of poultry and focusing completely on the coconut palm. And I think I didn't bring this point out properly. I joined the seminary where I learned the purpose of life. Did I mention this? I think I did. Then that's fine. Carrying on into our professional and business lives, what is the way to do a task? And the answer is only one, the best way. finding the best way, not going with what comes to mind. And I have so many instances which tell us that if we really always look for the best way, that becomes part of the attitude to business. And that would be good for anyone, finding the best way, whether you're in society, in family, at your education or your work. It's really wonderful. And that's, if you may have noticed, we're always looking for the best way and correcting our mistakes and finding a better way after that. That was one. And I did not give an example of being sincere to our purpose. And that has led us to a philosophy of a sale is not complete until the farmer gets the anticipated benefits. Now, we believe that as being the best way for marketing. And we need to help our farmers, our customers, whatever business you're in. And the farmer, in our case, my marketing people say, sir, the coconut tree is going to live for 50, 60 years. We tell farmers, good is not good when the best is available, because he's planting once in his lifetime. How can we service that for so long? I said, no, just the first 3 years, every 3 months, you must visit them, help them, guide them. And after that, the coconut tree looks after them for the rest of their life. So we do put that into practice. A sale is not complete until the customer receives the anticipated benefits. Another important thing was get your objective clearly. Very often we get distracted. When a problem comes up, we start attending to the problem and we lose sight of our objective. Being clear about our objective. I'll give an example. I have been also a founder, trustee of a management college. And I've asked them, what is the objective? And everyone in different ways has said, giving the best management education. And I turned around and said, no, that's the means. The objective is producing the best manager. The means is good education or best education. And you have to change. Today, Google gives you so many case studies. So we have to change. Another person, so we follow the same, I'm taking too much time. We follow the same principle, being clear about our objective. So these three really get you through.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. I think, it is absolutely clear. I remember a statement that you mentioned, which remains in my mind, the obsession with the coconut palm. And I think that obsession is extremely important to all of us in whatever that we do in order to get there. And you have mentioned, you also suggested that there were 3 things that you took away from the seminar, though we didn't have the occasion to listen to you. So can you share that, sir?
Well, the finding of the best way was consolidated, confirmed when I was there. Integrity of purpose got confirmed when I was there. Getting the best out of people. I remember writing to my mother when I was a student there. This was in the 60s, and saying I have a colleague here who has bad breath, who is a bore, who's this, who's that. I complained, and my mother wrote back and said, remember, every criticism shows a great need in the criticizer. You're either in the way or on the way. And therefore, after that, I realized I've got to get on with everybody well. And then the next thing, which was really important for me, was the purpose in life. Making the world and the universe a better place is my purpose of life. And I can do it through coconut farming. And I want everybody who can help me to help me. So I think that stood me in great stead.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. Thank you. The second question is with relation to coconut and the value chain there. What would you see as the economic and employment potential of the coconut value chain and ecosystem for a country like India? If you need to put figures on it, I mean, is there anything like share with us as a vision?
If you go back to my slide on sugar, I would put that on the top of the list. Coconut sugar is growing in demand around the world. It's a healthy sugar. It's a low glycemic sugar. Cane sugar is 80 on the glycemic index. Coconut sugar is 35, which means that 35% of the sugar has been converted into energy in 2 hours compared to 80% in cane sugar. So for diabetics, it's good. It's a healthy sugar. It releases slowly, giving you energy the whole day, keeping you in a great level of wellness. Could you repeat your question again? I wanted
Yes,
to.
sir. I mean, if you take the entire value chain that you see in the with the coconut, and you need to put some figures on economic benefits as well as, in terms of dollar trillion, as well as employability potential, if you do that, so that it inspires us to look at it.
I offhand cannot remember, but coconut sugar does employ a lot of people in tapping the coconut tree. Sugars are taken from the sap, which is tapped from the flower, and a person can only do so many. And the demand for this is huge and growing, and it can even replace to a great extent cane sugar. And there's a huge demand for it, and it's growing. The value is 8 times more. Today, I said 6 times in my presentation, but today the prices have gone up, and the returns per acre for a farmer can go as high as 15 lakhs an acre, dependent on who he's tied up with, because he can't process it into sugar. Well, he could on a small scale basis, but we are really talking about large scale. So.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. The next question is about, there have been gains in the Indian agriculture. At the same time, there have been constraints which have impeded farmers at the bottom end. And given that, as you rightly mentioned, 86% marginal farmers, land holding small, what is the way forward for adopting modern methods and increasing yields and productivity for raising income for such farmers? You did mention about the coconut tree, but are there any other suggestions do you need to give?
Well, how can we boost productivity is everybody's question. We have to find that. One of the ways is through what I have suggested, using the coconut tree partially or fully on his land. There are a few other thoughts which we have thought and discussed. They don't come to mind right now. When it comes to mind, I'll come back and answer it.
Thanks a lot, sir. I hand it over to the next cluster of questions to Professor Sudhakar Rao.
Yeah, thank you, Professor Prasad. Sir, it's a very interesting session that is going on. And I will now focus on few questions in the area of methods and technology. With your permission, I'll start with the first question. What kind of technology, in general, what kind of agri-tech could help farmers, both small and marginal? And if there's anything that regulation can help, what it could be?
India has marginal farmers, which gets in the way of large-scale production. At the same time, gives individual attention to small acreages, and therefore you should be able to get better yields. I think the government should do what is being done in China, where the government buys all the equipment, whether it be tractors or rice harvesters or wheat harvesters, and lets them out, or does the harvesting for farmers at a fee. I was invited by the Chinese government to help them. They have one island where they can grow coconut trees in Hainan Island. And I saw a most magnificent research station where any type of research can be done, and the private sector can go and ask anyone to do it for them. I want this done or that done in all parts of agriculture. It's not just kept for the universities to do for themselves. So this was actually meant for the farming community, but run by experts. And they were all charged for that little bit of work. So what costs us a lot, costs them very little. So these are ideas which we should search around the world and bring them in this country.
Amazing. I think there are lots of lessons that you have explained about China, that the government buys the entire equipment and does harvesting for a fee for the
Yes.
farmers. I think that takes away a lot of burden and a lot of cost as well. And a consolidation or a consortium which helps them in their queries and tells them, advises them what to do. That's great, sir.
Can I
Moving on
add
to the next.
one more thought which comes to mind? One of the
Yeah.
biggest problems the farmers have is a small farmer harvesting a small quantity of fruit or vegetables. Everything's not ready at one time. How does he market a small quantity? So there should be a system, and it can be set up today with the internet, whereby a vehicle can come and pick up maybe just 20 kilos of tomatoes and fill up along the way with all the other people who tap into the availability of that van or that truck. So these are things which must be settled, because much of our product is wasted and lost because it doesn't reach the markets in time. And the poor farmer cannot afford it. What does he do? So these are issues which have to be looked at and solved.
Great insight, sir. Now, this helps us to get into the next question. The new farm regulations that we are talking about, and there's been a lot of opposition, especially in the states of Haryana, Punjab, and the adjoining areas, at least. The protests are going on. What is your assessment about these new regulations?
Well, I'll give you my personal assessment. It doesn't come out of an in-depth study, but I saw over the last 50 years, as you said, we have been in agriculture and livestock farming. I have seen houses control the markets, create a monopoly, and exploit the markets. I've seen this happening. We had the milk revolution taking place because this could be broken. The Amul model came in and broke the milk revolution. Then there were 6 or 7 families which controlled the edible oil industry. And again, Korean was asked to set that up. I remember the time, long time ago, when the factory he was setting up was burned down. Again, vested interests, so that it wouldn't go. Somehow it went, but still, the big industrialist has a long reach. And that's what I'm afraid of today, that giving power to a few people to control the market is what we Indians seem to like. I mean, those who can take advantage of it, we seem to like it. I don't know how well the good intentions will materialize, because I think the negative factors will take charge, and I'm worried about that.
In so many words, you have given your assessment of the new regulations brought in by the government. Thank you, sir. Now, therefore, the next question is about, if we are left to ourselves, we know that organic farming technology is growing, and not many people are aware of it. It is not known to a vast population of farmers. What is to be done to make sure that it reaches to each and every farmer about organic farming?
Again, awareness in the same way. Organic farming, quite frankly, in my opinion, we need to look at what's best for the farmer, not for the buyer. Can the farmer earn more, produce more through organic farming? Then that's great. But if he can't, then I think it's not the right move. We are not a country of the rich in majority who can now say, no, I can afford to buy this, I can afford to buy that, and go for more tasty food as is claimed through organic farming. I think it's difficult to reach our production goals based on organic farming. However, if this is done early enough and wisely, I'm not an organic expert to talk with too much confidence. I hear success stories. Can those success stories be increased and magnified? Then wonderful. But otherwise, I'm more keen on the farmer getting the highest yield at this stage. And until everybody is getting 3 meals a day, I think we shouldn't look at better quality instead of better quantity.
Thank you, sir. I think you have given us a very nice takeaway that what is good for the farmer is going to be good for the country and not the other way. And that's a fantastic takeaway for us. And one last question I have as far as methods and technology is concerned. Sir, in your view, what is going to keep the rural youth engaged with agriculture? What should be done to engage them in agriculture?
Just one simple answer: profitability. Everybody wants to make a good life for himself, for his family. And if he is condemned to minimum income, it's no use. We've got to find ways to increase profitability, because then the other benefits will also be perceived and appreciated. The benefit of a better lifestyle, of a more open, healthier lifestyle. But we've got to increase profitability. And technology is helping that. And therefore, this focus on the Internet of Things has to come in more into farming. How can government support that, encourage that? New technologies are there. Lots of new things happening. We read and see WhatsApp messages of farms completely tied into the Internet of Things and automatically irrigated and so on and so forth. How can that be made more available to the common farmer as well? So I don't have a good answer, except in a general fashion.
I think it's a great answer. I think we bring about profitability by use of technology and making sure that we don't condemn the rural youth to minimum income, but we ensure profitability promises them a new lifestyle, a healthy and productive lifestyle. That's a great answer. And you have also told us that IoT is bringing in all new varieties of autonomous irrigation to and increasing the yield and monitoring, use of technology through drones. I think all these are going to help. I think it's falling in place, sir. Fantastic. Yes. I'm very happy to have raised these questions. And now I will request Professor Prasad to start another module of questions. Thank you, sir.
Your mute is on. Okay.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, Professor Rao. Thank you for pointing that out, sir. The key point that you mentioned in the last question, get the focus on profitability, and then all the other things will fall into place. I think that's a great priority to set in terms of how we understand it as common men. We don't belong to agriculture, but we are able to understand that we will be able to manage far better if we put the priorities right. And I think that puts one priority right. So we now come to things which are related to education, training, and careers. And the first question, from your very vast experience, how can management in agriculture be practiced at the ground level? What are the key things that one needs to take care of?
I think farmers are experts to a great extent, but new people getting in must get a basic grounding in what they want to do. This is possible today on Google. You can get a lot of very valid information, but too many people get into agriculture from the point of view of enthusiasm, and they mix up running a commercial operation and a hobby. And they want to plant this plant and that plant and the other plant and everything, and I want to have a little of this and a little of that. And that's the last way to run a commercial operation. It's a hobby. So getting their thoughts clear, getting the right type of advisors who can help them specifically in what they want. If the government in each state put up a list, let's talk of fruit, who's their best 1 or 2 or 3 people who are experts in papaya cultivation, in sitafal, in any fruit, or for that matter, vegetables. Today with the internet, we have an app, what's Deejay for You app, to help our customers find out any question they want. They don't know what's happening to the tree. They see one tree, a leaf is bent, take a picture, send it to us, and we give them a guarantee in 2 days to get an answer. We try and answer within an hour, but sometimes the concerned person is not available. So using technology, I think the government, who's got our funds available to them, our taxpayers' money available to them, should look at these ways to help the farmers become easier, smarter, without too much of effort, without too much of cost. More and more farmers are having mobile phones, and more are having smartphones today. So much can be done. Yes, government is doing. I'm not running down government and saying not doing. Yes, for mandis, for marketing, a lot of things are happening. But identifying the problem and finding a solution, there is a solution. And there should be the seriousness to effect that solution. Unfortunately, there are too many private interests coming in all the time. That's why we have to do this for ourselves very often. The farmers, the private sector.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for very, very practical response to that question. Now, I'll take a case view of that approach, because you would have done a lot of this in the past many years. And if you need to look at, because you've also been doing a lot of innovation, and then finally the farmer also has understood it, because otherwise they wouldn't have gone past a certain level. So if you look at that practice, sir, what are the 2 or 3 things which you did in your education, training, awareness building, communication exercise, which helped you to reach where you are?
The first time I started the first poultry farm in the Deejay group, I had come out, I had worked in a couple of companies, and then I found they were not doing things in the best way. I convinced my dad to give me a little money. He was an engineer in the railways. He didn't have much, but he helped me out to start a little farm. And I was so nervous it would go wrong. So I sat down and looked at what's the best way. Again, as I said, finding the best way. So then it struck me, let me list out all the jobs to be done, to build the sheds, to do this, that, which comes first, which comes second. And I put it up on a chart to remind me and not to let me forget. And a friend came over and he said, "Hey, David, where do you get that PERT chart from?" So I said, "I don't know what you're talking about." He said, "Well, that chart you have there is called a PERT chart." I'd never heard the word before, but I'm giving you this as an example that I was very proud. I was able to do something very smartly just by thinking it out. And many of us rush into work without thinking, whether it's our studies or whatever. We go for the first thought which comes to mind. And the first thought is generally not the right thought. The first thought generally comes out of the program set in us, and the fears, our anxieties, our pressures, and all that. But we should stop and think, what is the best way to do this job? I would say that's the most important thing for everyone.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. Very crisp takeaway for us. The next is about, so you have dealt with a lot of farmers and organizations supporting farmer, your own organization. What is needed from an agribusiness leader, be it at the farming level or at the middle level or the organization level?
I might give you what you may think is an emotional answer, but I think it's at the center of everything. And that is love and concern. Is there genuine love and concern? And this comes out of what your priorities are. If wealth for you is an asset, and if you are the owner, not the trustee of that wealth, then your answer will go in a different direction. When you are a trustee of the wealth entrusted to you, then your decisions will be different. And the pain is much less if something goes wrong. And because if you don't treat it as your own, you've not really lost very much. And we have suffered very big setbacks in the past, very, very serious setbacks because of conniving, this, that, or the other. I'm not going into any names. But if you can take it in stride, and you can if you have the right attitude. So that's another little bit I would share.
Thank you, sir. I think, from a management point of view, we fully feel that it is emotion which gives the why and the energy to drive things. And I come back to the point that you mentioned in the beginning about being obsessed with the coconut palm. And I don't think you get into obsession without having the emotional element. The other thing that you gave as a takeaway is that there are a lot of very responsible corporate organizations in the normal industry, not agribusiness, who talk about trusteeship. Trusteeship is a point that a lot of people talk about in order to achieve goals which are larger than immediate profits. So thanks a lot, sir, for pointing out those two takeaways. And with this side, I'd like to hand over the baton back to Professor Sudhakar Rao for the next cluster.
Thank you, sir. I was enjoying while listening to your responses and pretty much busy in jotting down your pearls of wisdom that you are giving to us today. Thank you very much. Even the audience is enjoying and they are leaving those messages on the chat box. And I'll share with you later all the chat responses that we have received. For now, I have a very short answer questions kind of a cluster, which is on recommendations from your side, sir. This is based on your experience, exposure, and expertise in this field. So the first one in the recommendation says, what are your suggestions for making a paradigm shift for farmers in mountainous areas?
I'm not quite sure what the right answer is for that. Mountainous areas where the temperatures are cooler, coconuts may not do well. Less than 10 degrees centigrade, you should not plant coconut trees. Productivity gets hurt. Again, they're making available to the farmer the equipment that can give him efficiencies which he can't afford to bring in for himself, giving him solutions and what's the best crop to plant. I'm rash judging here that most farmers plant as per their experience and history and what their fathers planted and all that. There are new things happening. How can they get to know about that? Again, the internet, WhatsApp, all these new technologies must be used to reach the farmer. So can that be done in areas which have their own set of issues and problems? I'm not sure if I have given you good answers, but we need to think when we go into an area, what is the biggest challenge the farmer is facing there? What is the headache? What is the difficulty? And then look at that answer instead of making a solution before we go to the place. You know, in general, talk about a solution, but we need to get specific solutions.
Oh, great. That answer is both specific and more of a consultation strategist kind of a solution also that you've given. It is specific because you mentioned less than 10 degrees temperature, we cannot go for coconut farming, and therefore we should avoid in mountainous areas where the temperature is lesser, we should not go for it. But the solution that you suggested is, how do we provide them with the equipment that is required? How do we provide them the solutions that are required to improve efficiencies? I think what is the best crop to go for is a knowledge that has to be developed based on research. Therefore, research organizations, government should reach out to these farmers and tell them what is best in their interest, and they should be helped to build up the efficiencies. That's a very nice takeaway. And as a consultant, as a strategist, you mentioned that there can never be a general answer. We need to know the specifics, we need to know the pain points, and then we will be able to suggest a solution. That's a very great takeaway. You are straight talking like a B school professor, sir. Thank you very much. I will now move on to the next question. Is there any view that you can help us with? One of the members in the audience has asked, economics of bamboo cultivation. Is there any suggestion or any view on that? Bamboo.
Bamboo is a very good plant, and maybe there's a new variety called Dima bamboo. If they have heard about it, it's tissue cultured today. I've planted some of it on the borders where I have a very strong breeze. It serves as a windbreaker. Bamboo, if it is what it's claimed to be, the highest sequestering agent for carbon dioxide, the highest yields, will be very good for a whole host of industries. So lands which are waste and uncultivated, which are difficult to, can lend themselves to bamboo cultivation. And there are experts who one should have asked this question of. I'm not the expert.
Great. I think what you have given is a big yes for bamboo cultivation, both in terms of its benefits to the environment as well as economical benefits to the farmers. And fantastic. Sir, I will move to the next question. Uh, what can be done in India to reduce our dependence on exports in commodities like pulses and oil seeds?
I have not got any experience in this area, but I will speculate and just share my thoughts. I find government advisory bodies, the agricultural department, tends to be generalists rather than more specific in their advice. If it is the right type of, let's say, a pulse, a dal, which we want to produce more so we don't have to import, a focused approach of the states where it grows best, with a focused support system to encourage that, I think will make great differences. So if the states which are ideal for dal were specifically called upon by the center, look, your job to focus on this, what do you want from the center? We will help you in terms of funds, but what do you need to do? What do your farmers need? What is the answer to solve this problem? Where can you take production from here to what level? And focus of the universities, what should be done to increase production in those areas? So I think a focused approach would help us find better solutions. We follow that 100% in what we are doing. And we are finding solutions which, after we test them out with coconut trees, we'll be applying with others. We'll be happy to share those solutions, to save water, to save fertilizers. But government is spending crores of taxpayers' money. Rightly, they have to spend it. I'm not hammering them for spending it. I'm saying they're not getting the value out of that spend.
Great.
How do we get value? What needs to be done? Call in the private sector to ask them what needs to be done. Get the advice and follow it properly. But somehow we've got to wake up the powers that be, because they have the power to do it. We, as an individual, you can do much more than I through the reach you have. But I can only do things in my own place. I don't know if I've given you.
Yeah, I think you have created a role for the private sector, government, and academia. This is very interesting to us when you are answering, and go hunt down the problem and provide them with the solutions. I think that's a great area of interest where academia is also involved in finding solutions. And you said that you will do that for your farm. You test, you apply, and you scale up. I think that model that you have given us just now is quite doable, and it can definitely be talked to with the powers that be. While the money is being spent, we're not deriving the mileage or the result of that value that we are spending. So the value for money also should be there in one sense, that the government should worry about by harping on experts and bringing in private players as well as academia. So that's a good answer, sir. Thank you very much. I have one last question. In the sense that we hear the stories of hydroponics these days. Many young entrepreneurs getting into it, many women getting into hydroponics in cities that are smaller, bigger, everywhere. The buzzword is hydroponics today. How do you read this trend of hydroponics farming today, and say, how will it be after 5 years? What is your take on this, and how it will help our farmers?
Maybe I'll digress a little bit. A study has come out titled 10 Global Trends Every Smart Person Should Know, where they talk of the good things happening. Today, there's doomsday scenarios with global warming and so on. This is on the other side. And they've traced it over the last few thousand years and given reasons what has really made a difference. You can get this on YouTube. I've been studying it quite a bit. It's very encouraging. So they talk of new trends and breakthroughs. How did the world get through its crisis? I think in the 80s, it was predicted when the world's population reaches 5 billion, the world is going into serious problem. We are now almost at 8 billion. So that didn't happen, and so on, through breakthroughs which have taken place. Maybe hydroponics is going to be one of those breakthroughs. Yes, because you do save a lot of water, you do save a lot of fertilizers, and you do have much more intensive cultivation, but it's high tech. So how does one bridge the gap? I think a proper study done would help. Who can do that study? I think this is the area where government should come in and fund studies for the private sector. Call on universities, colleges, or even management institutions or groups or consultants. Do the study for us. What is the best way to take it forward? I think all of us will remember the McKinsey study done in the 90s. It really transformed a lot, created awareness, created knowledge. I read that study a lot. If they charged a bomb, they shouldn't. It should have been given free to everybody. But anyway, it was meant for the powers that be. But it was great. Can we do that now on a focused way for individual crops and requirements?
Fantastic, sir. Now, we've got fantastic responses for all the questions that we have gathered. And now there is a newfound enthusiasm among the audience, and therefore I would like to request you to take one. We are departing from our existing methodology where we ask questions and we don't let the audience ask questions directly to avoid confusion and maintain some kind of uniformity and consistency in that. But today we have Mr. Jean Rigaud and Anthony Prince who raised their hands. If they are still there, maybe each one of them can go for one question each very quickly. We are already beyond 7:45. So I request you to keep this in your mind and we'll quickly conclude that. Mr. Jean Rigaud first. Are you there?
Anthony Prince is there, so maybe Anthony can answer first.
Yeah, go on. Mr. Anthony Prince.
Yeah, good evening to all, and good evening to my dear friend David Lobo, who alerted me last minute to join this Zoom meeting. So David and I have interacted quite a bit on this, and I visited his farms and things like that. And I'm speaking to you from the Bahamas, but I spent last 18 years in India doing socio-economic projects. And my background is a ship designer and shipbuilder, but I'm a hobby farmer. And let me tell you something from my experience in doing business in China for 23 years and building up their shipbuilding industry. And back in India, last 18 years, building up the Indian ship. The problem, I think, don't lie with the government. The Indian government has numerous problems, numerous institutions providing a lot of help to the farmers. But we have two kinds of bureaucrats. One bureaucrat is selfless, dedicated scientists who are ready to transfer this know-how and knowledge to the farmer. I had personal experience when I was trying to raise sea bass. Scientists were going after me to help me. But say there are other set of scientists and administrators who want a personal gain out of all this know-how and knowledge. That is where the problem is. You know, we talked about China giving farming help. I had to cultivate half acre of my land in this pandemic time sitting here. And I contacted the agriculture department. They sent a tractor to my property and they prepared the land for 6,000 rupees. So in India, there is all such things are available. When I motivated the panchayat to cultivate 500 acres of land of paddy field, David has visited, and I offered them to give them harvesting machines, tractors and everything. They said, sir, we don't need that. We have enough funds for it. But we need people like you to motivate the other people to enter into this one, the leadership that you have to show. And today we have recovered 70% of unutilized land in our panchayat because of that one. So I'm not saying that the government has to help out the farmers, but there are already so many. We have a coconut university in Kerala, for example, you know, and so we really need to take all these things. And vertical farming is going to be a big thing. You know, the shares stock in those companies are being sold like hotcakes. I have also put some money in it there. But and it is going to take very little space, and it's going to grow 5 or 10 times more produce. And corporations are coming and investing it. So there's a lot that we people can do. And so that's a statement I wanted to give you. Not that I have any questions. And yeah, thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Anthony Prince, for adding value and sharing the anecdotal evidence that in India also there's a lot of help coming. Equipment is also being provided. We need motivation and all. Your perspectives are very interesting. Thank you so much for joining us today. Thank you, sir. If Mr. Jean Rigo is there, we'll take that question before we close.
Hello. Hello,
Yeah.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
You hear me?
Yes.
I wanted to find out more about the Bridge Foundation. You were doing so much of good work with that. What is the progress with the Bridge Foundation?
Jean, maybe you can call me. It's completely a different subject. I'll be happy to share with you answers and information there. It's doing very well. Thank you.
Okay.
Great. Great. On this happy note, we all at ICFAI Group would like to thank Mr. David Lobo immensely for sparing his time and expertise and sharing with youngsters and professionals and educators and technology and enthusiasts in agriculture who have joined from around the country today. They are, I'm sure, greatly benefited by your lecture and the responses that you have given to various questions today. Thank you, sir. From the bottom of our heart, we thank you very much for adding so much value for the session today. It is an interesting session on agriculture, and I'm sure many will get attracted by listening to you.
Thank you very much. And I would like to again tell anyone listening that whatever we can do to help specifically with coconuts, please feel free to call us or write to us at our email ID, which was on the last slide.
Fantastic, sir. I will take the presentation from you later and will share with those interested so that they can go through and be prepared for their next venture to become agripreneur in the days to come. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for joining and listening to Mr. David Lobo so patiently and also actively participating by asking your several questions. In the interest of time, we had to cut it short because we have already crossed 7:50, getting closer to 8 p.m. And we will see you next week on Friday, on August 27th at 6:30 p.m. with yet another interesting leader who is going to share his perspectives on the domain that he is working on. So look forward to meeting you all with yet another interesting lecture coming up on August 27th. Till then, do take care. And the pandemic is not over. Keep taking precautions. We want all of you to be safer so that each one of us can count that collectively we can be safer by our individual practices. Thank you all. Thank you, Mr. Prasad. And thank you all the friends of Mr. David Lobo. Thank you, Mr. Benedict, for providing this connect once again. And thank you all. Have a good evening.